navigating our way through the virtual platform. And the question is, how do you create an effective, seamless event? Well, go no further because my guest is Dorothy Erlanger of ErlangerInc.com, and she is with us here to tell us all about how to produce successful virtual events. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, Diane. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too. And I just have to say, just as an aside, a funny aside, we are learning this platform Restream as we speak. And I'm not sure if our behind the scenes was recorded, but there you go. These are the things that happen. But anyway, Dorothy, I know of your work. I've seen you in action. But for people who are not quite sure, what the heck is a virtual event producer?
Well, think about it if you were on stage. If you were on stage, which most of us have been, you would have somebody managing the lighting. You would have somebody at the door to make sure that only the right people came in. You would have somebody to handle the sound technician. You would have somebody to answer questions if people were having a problem. That's a lot of what the producer does. We take care of all that behind the scenes stuff so that you as the speaker can focus on what you do best.
And I'm so grateful for people like you. And we've both seen people in action. We've seen a lot of virtual presentations. What do you find is the biggest fear when giving virtual presentations?
The biggest fear is the technology itself. People are so afraid that they are going to get tripped up or stuck, kicked out, or have the wrong people in the room. And it's truly, they are afraid of getting into this because of the technology side.
And I would say amen to that. Most of us are confident in our speaking, but when something goes wrong technologically, we're just out there saying, Dorothy, Dorothy. Well, speaking of mistakes, what's been an uh-oh kind of mistake that you've experienced or encountered?
Well, I mean, I could do a list, but one of the strangest ones was I was in the midst of running a conference. I was the host, I was the producer, and all of a sudden we were having some stormy weather and my power started to go out. And I was like, that was a huge uh-oh. It's like, does the meeting end? Does it transfer to somebody else? And how can I tell people? So what I did, I had an assistant working with me. Without even explaining why, I instantly transferred the hosting to her. Give me a co-host. And that way, if my power had gone out for temporarily or even for the rest of the meeting, we would have been okay. I also always have a backup. If I had to leave or gotten knocked out by power going out, I would have come back in, but I would have come back in on my phone. So I always have at least 2 different backups.
Good tips for anyone, even people who don't have producers and are doing it themselves. And I can imagine you must have had some funny moments along the way.
Actually, one of the funniest moments was I was producing for Gina Carr, who you know well. Mm-hmm. Her husband, Terry, was doing a technical demonstration, and all of a sudden we started getting horrible background noise. Terry couldn't hear it, but we're getting horrible background noise. It was like a pile driver or something. And so what Gina did is she kicked him out of the meeting, which was a smart thing to do, except that her settings were such that he couldn't come back in. And he's trying on a different computer because same IP address still didn't work. And so, and he's in the next room. So finally what he did is he came back in on his phone because that was a different IP address. And he was able to rejoin us and continue with his tech tips.
And they're still together today, so that's something. Well, Dorothy, give us the inside scoop. When an event is going well, when it's seamless, what's happening behind the scenes to make that effective?
What's happening behind the scenes is that your producer is, number one, they're managing people who are coming in. They are keeping an eye on the chat to see if there are any problems or if there are any questions that should be passed off to the speaker. They are also, if there are any problems going on, they are taking care of it in the background. They are working their way around. I had a situation, for instance, where a person was presenting and she was not able to get her slides up. I stepped in, I put my slides up. She wasn't even aware of it. I ran her slides for her without her even missing a beat. So those are the kinds of things that you either take care of at the moment, or you can, in many cases, if you've got somebody who's an experienced producer, you can anticipate. And the other thing about this is, let's face it, I'm also a speaker. I know what it takes for a speaker to feel comfortable with what they're doing. And I try to keep everything else out of their way.
That makes such a difference. And I'd say that is a real advantage in hiring a producer for an event where there are speakers, because there are people who are technically proficient, they're techies, but they don't understand how to connect the dots. They don't realize what's important. And that's a real advantage I see that you have as a producer. As I said, I've seen you in action. And I have to say, the other thing that I know about you, Dorothy, is you are cool as a cucumber. I mean, you are cool in a crisis, and that's what you want, because there are things that are going to happen. The other day, I was at the CSP Summit for National Speakers Association, and as is typical, they put us into breakout rooms, and then we're just bounced right back into the main room. And I know you've had that experience as well. But when that happens with you, you're just so calm, and people aren't panicked at all. So that's really good. I have to say that you don't want to have the producing capability if you're the speaker. I've tried it. It is not fun. So what should people do to get in touch with you? Or I should say before that, what do they need to know about a producer? What kind of person really needs you?
Who needs me really is pretty much anyone who wants to present online and look great, because you don't want to be focused on anything other than the presentation. So I've worked with people who are putting on their very first webinar. And in that case, because I am a speaker, I often will go through a little coaching with them on everything from lighting to how to get more engagement and so on, up through full day conferences with multiple speakers and even on different platforms. So it really says, if you want to be a professional and look like a professional online, and you're presenting to an audience that's of any importance to you, you want to have a producer behind the scenes.
That is such good advice. And it's good to know that it could be something as singular as a webinar, and you're there. They can call on you for the production. So that's great to know. How can they call on you for real? Where can people get in touch with you, Dorothy?
Yes, people can reach me at my phone, and for texting is 804-928-8232. That's 804-928-8232. And the easiest way to reach me by email is DorothyErlanger@gmail.com. Just DorothyErlanger @gmail.com.
DorothyErlanger@gmail.com. All right, I'm sure you're going to get people contacting you, because this is such a big production when you have a virtual event. And it's good to know there are people like you. Now, if you all enjoyed this interview, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Diane DiResta. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for being a guest.
Thank you for having me. It's fun.
This was wonderful information. And I wish you success on the platform of life, and may every presentation be a knockout.